Right, great to have you along. Let's begin. We'll start seated. The resource of our continued gathering presence is such a wonderful way to start and to feel from. It's what I give my cells, my nervous system, and I want to offer to you letting our nervous system, letting our person, our awareness recognize any kind of a resource as a starting point to our practice, right? Whether it's the foundations of our health or just your, I just really, I love, and I want to recommend that we start there today. So it's just touching in and letting our awareness have that recognition of this, our human nature, right, begins from a resourced place. I think the work and all of these techniques serve us better when that's our premise. And let a deep breath confer that rich resource. And breathe that resourcefulness feeling into the heart, through the heart, into the body, into the cells. It's a little bit like fanning a fire. Getting those embers glowing brightly. Because we have everything that we need to have a realization of who we are. We have everything that we need to have a deep, meaningful realization of who we really are. Let's place the soles of our feet together. We'll work rounds of Uddiyana. Give myself a prop. So let's go hands down to support a vertical lift. Ooh, I like that. All right. Inhaling into the hips, the genitals, the pelvis. We'll hold for just a moment. So brief breath hold. Shift just slightly forward. Exhale everything out rapidly. Remain empty. Draw belly in, back, up, release. Let our breathing confer our resourced state. So we never need to go into gasping mode. At least in our yoga practice, we don't need to. Yeah? Let's do one more round. Inhaling to a point of fullness or saturation. And then pause, brief hold. Move slightly, fold forward, just a slight fold. Exhale everything out. Remain empty. Again, draw the belly in. Draw from the perineum, draw from the genitals, the anus. So you can get all those tissues moving, and you can even just distinguish the genital, the perineum, the anus. Right? Drawing, lifting. Releasing. Resume Ujjayi breath. Breathing into the hips, into the sockets, the genitals, the ground, the perineum. It's a place of primal resource. Right? This is our survival, our willingness to live area, according to the ancient and energetic texts. The root, the tail, the genitals, the pelvis. Right? Side bend. Inhaling, right hand down, left arm reaches skyward. Now keeping the left sit bone contacting ground, exhale. Feel the trunk lifting, moving away from the sit bones. Lightly press the feet together and initiate breath from the pelvic floor. So we can feel that the feet have contact. The tail, the perineum area contains breath. And inhale, come upright. We'll switch directly over to other side. The left hand will go down, inhaling, right arm up. And exhaling to our left, side bending to our left. And inhaling, come up. You may want to use the hands to help the legs together. And let's set up. We'll do some abdominals. And we'll start lying on back. We'll be working a couple different kinds. First, we'll do an elbow to knee variation where we use a hand to press a thigh. Okay? And that thigh pressure is just to feel the space, the motion between the thigh bone and the pelvis. Perception. So a lot of these motions, pushing, stretching, reaching, is to kind of light up our perceptual hardware, our joints, our tissues, our skin. Inhale, float the head and the shoulder blades off the ground, and just a little bit is perfect. And then finding the tailbone, curling the tailbone, and now exhale, the right leg reaches up, the right hand presses the right thigh. If there's movement, that's fine. It's often in movement where our perception kind of gets turned on. Draw the low belly down. Inhaling, bend the right knee. Curl tailbone. Exhaling, reach the left leg up. Use the left hand, press the left thigh. The pressure is to take note. The pressure, the movement is for the benefit of our perceiving. Inhale, bend left knee. I'm going to continue. Let's just do like 4 more on each side. And if you would, continue your own pace. To be ultra specific, what you're sensing, the movement, the shift, right? The perceiving needs not have any opinion. The important part, I believe, is perceiving itself, that we're having an embodied experience of noticing, feeling, perceiving. I regard this as like the building bricks of, how do we say, clean, clear structures, right? To perceive clearly and cleanly is a gift to the world. When we view cleanly and clearly, that has potent effect. As our body wakes up and sometimes dull perceiving starts to transform into very high fidelity perceiving. That's fun, that's interesting. That's really great. Good. That's great. And the other kind that we'll do is with an object between the legs. So you can select either your roll or your block. We'll place it between the legs. We'll reach the legs straight up or almost straight up. Inhaling into the abdomen. Squeeze roll. Curling tailbone just a little bit. The tailbone is really about lighting up the lowest possible abs you can find. Exhale, float the head and the shoulder blades up. So we're condensing a lot of that low, deep, low belly material, condensing it in and down, in. Inhaling, let off some of the leg pressure, letting breath breathe into the abdomen. And you feel full with breath, squeeze. Curl tailbone, that begins the condensing of the low belly well below the navel. And now exhale, the head and shoulder blades up. Exhale, further condenses the lowest belly tissues in. So focusing there. So we're drawing our attention. Pull low belly down, it's a third. It's like a tertiary condensing in of the low belly. And then the big low belly release as we inhale, the head down, the legs ease off some of their efforts. Yes, a pause, squeeze the roll with your legs. Curl the tailbone, that begins the first little lighting up at the low belly. Exhale, float the head and the shoulder blades. Track with the low belly so you can feel that condensing in. And then draw the low belly down, a third condensing, still going inward. And then from that very center of low belly, we're releasing, inhaling into the low belly, setting the head down. Let's do 3 more on our own. So I'm kind of describing this today, feeling this as almost like a 3-layered condensing or an attentional move inward, specifically around the low belly. When we shift the tailbone, that's the first one. The tailbone it's just a bony landmark. But what moves the tailbone are low belly, soft tissue, muscle. So that might be the first way we start to feel the low belly. Exhaling is the second way. It's dynamic, there's motion, there's a condensing motion to that area just above the pubic bone. And then we draw the low belly down third. It's like a deeper version of exhalation. It's like ringing in the attention, those last bits of going in. Notice the trajectory of your noticing. The way we observe, the way we perceive, do you get that there's a directionality to that? Often there's our perceiving may have trajectory, direction in our body. Can you feel the in and deep and down? Or maybe for you it's in and then out. Or maybe for you it's kind of this hovering close to the surface and spreading. Or maybe your trajectory of perceiving is like contact and deflect. Might have a reflective Can you feel the trajectory of your perceiving? Right, right. Let's set up on our feet and our knees. And do a highly modified Virasana or Camel. So you'll have to let me have a detail moment with you. So I think the best way to start this is with the toes curled under so that the soles of the feet are kind of tensioned. But if you have joint pain, you might not be able to do that. Like your big toe might be inflamed or such. So then you would have to do it toes down, and we'll get different effect. So I've got my toes curled under, I'm on my knees as if I were to do like a camel, okay? And we'll be reaching back, so you might reach to your heels, you might reach back to a set of blocks, okay? Can you see that? What I anticipate happening is you'll feel a significant tensioning through the tops of your legs, your quads. So the point of this is a bridge variation. The point of this is to minimize or remove back bend. So there'll be a lot of abdominal engagement, maybe a lot of tension through the tops of the quads. Okay. And the exact how-to is I'm only going back where I could enact pulling myself back up. So I'm going back with the intent of coming up. Okay. And even if I have my hands down, I'm not relaxing my quads, I'm not relaxing there's no relaxing. This is not a relaxed pose. Okay. If you get better luck next to a couch or a nice sturdy piece of furniture, that's great too. And this is why the toes kind of pushing into the mat is really so important. So however far back you go, the action is to connect to breath under these tensioned conditions. There's no back bend. And I'm motioning as if I'm pulling my pelvis forward. I'm pulling the front of my body forward at every given moment, at any given moment. So you can just test this. Can I pull? Can the front of my body be so tensioned that I'm actually lifting up just a little bit? Deep breath and start to pull your front body forward so you can relax and release. So pulling forward to release. Coming all the way up to half kneeling to release. Okay. So I hope I described that well enough so that now when we go into bridge, we're going to just find out if we can recreate that a little bit. Have a seat. And we'll set the feet up. Oh, and I should say, if you would rather not do bridge, if you'd rather just stick with this half Virasana, this camel variation, please do that. It's extraordinary tension. It's extraordinary work. I think it's really good for the legs and the low belly part of our body. Okay. We'll be in bridge a short moment. Exhaling when you're ready. Bring the tailbone up. And we're just here for 5 breaths. That same or similar motion as if I'm tensioning my entire torso up. It may seem like an exorbitant amount of work to produce through the fronts of the legs, and that would be okay. It's almost like I'm pulling my navel over my shins. I'm pulling my chest up over my shins. Okay, you could use the backs of your arms on the ground, and you can nudge the ground a little bit with your arms if that helps create a lighter scenario for your neck. So there's really kind of a pulling up action, as if my shins are fixed in space and the whole rest of my body is going to spring up like a target. All right, let's release, bringing all of that down. Okay. So I hope I'm describing this tensioning through the front of the body sufficiently. It's something I'm wondering if we get when we go into things like dolphin. So we're setting up for dolphin, elbows under shoulders, knees under hips. And when you're ready, exhale the knees off the ground. Now, the degree to which we experience tension can be helpful or it can be muting. Right? If I add so much tension to the system, I might mute perception, perceiving, listening, sensing. But if I add just that right amount, I might find I can breathe into the entire backside of my body. under the shoulder blades, back of heart, low back. So we're going to have a little fun with this front of body, back of body. This kind of interplay, this counterpoint. So you can use a little bit of that front of body discovery, tension, to open up perception in the back of the body. Can you feel your breath prominently in the back of your body? I'll make an argument for perceiving the front of our body, the back of our body, and the middle of our body as having deep embryological roots. And so we're just covering this in broad strokes today. All right, let's release. Set the knees down. And I hope you have a wall or a nice sturdy piece of furniture nearby. I'd like to do lunges at the wall with you. So, some padding, and ensure that you can have some mat running up the wall so your foot bones are protected. You may have seen me the last year or two with bandages on my foot from time to time. Those bandages simply are going to inform, have padding behind your foot. Those are delicate tissues, bursa, ligaments, bones. So just ensure there's padding. These aren't throwaway suggestions, but pad your foot. Okay. So here's my heel next to my hip, and we can move the hips toward the wall. For right now, I like hands on hips. And with my hands on hips, I create a little pressure down as I inhale the belly and the chest up. Now, do you notice as we're getting into this lunge on the wall, we could do this one of two ways. We could do this in that passive way where we just softly melt back toward the ground. That's one way. And another way is we can do this with applied tension, almost like we're tensioning ourselves deeper into the pose. I think they both have benefit. I'm using a tensioning method, almost like I'm tensioning my torso forward. So it does put a lot more work through the fibers of that down leg. Okay. Now, second one, we'll adjust the right foot and we're twisting toward the thigh. So for me, I'm twisting, turning my left arm atop my right thigh. When we twist in this lunge at the wall, it's okay that the hips float away from the wall. And when we release, inhaling, unwind, I'd like to switch sides. So take your time to get the other knee in the corner. So just doing 2 versions today. I'm selecting hands on hips just because with that tension that's coursing through my thigh, I want to be able to feel the lifting, the tractioning, the freedom of the spine. So here we go. So I'll just repeat myself. We could do this one of a couple of ways. It just depends on your mental timbre today. One is I could just float, melt my hips back, a very like passive, softening stretch. And the other is I can create a tension through the front of my body, especially the front of my leg. I can kind of press the tailbone a little bit forward. I can press the hips forward even as I'm going backward. I'm not arching or collapsing my low back. Part of the brilliance of being able to create that front of body tension is that it can relieve the low back. All right, and part 2 is hooking the elbow over the thigh. For me, it's right elbow over left thigh. And you may need to adjust your foot a little bit or and release. Inhaling, let's unwind. Come away from the wall. And we'll resume away from the wall at standing. And if the tissues are getting a little bit of a work, take some moments to kind of pad your feet into the ground, to slowly straighten through the knees, to push off the ball of the foot, to activate the calves, kind of just softly, like a movement massage for the things around your knees, because we don't want any twangles. Okay, so just coming up out of those deep knee bends, it's sometimes really nice to just kind of contract, feel the calves, the muscles all around the knees. No surprises. Inhale, draw the arms up. Exhale, fold forward, lengthening through that abdomen, softening through the neck. Lunge, inhale, left foot back. Keep the knee up, keep the heel up. Okay? Hands to floor, leg or overhead. There's just a few breaths in these poses. You might be able to apply some of that front of body tension to breathe into and support the backside of your body. And to feel the mid-body. Inhale, bring the hands down, pad the left knee, set the left knee down, padding. Padding, padding, padding. Heel to butt lunge. Left hand grabs foot. Boop. If the place where you're practicing is cool, like you've had air conditioning running, this may feel less good than if you're in kind of warm, tacky conditions. Okay, now with the right hand, reach back, find that left foot, both hands on left foot, and let the foot kind of tension the hands back. So moving into a chest opening move. So here, if I just passively stretch forward, I might just kind of collapse in my back. But if I tension forward, I can lift up. I have lots of support. It's work. But it's the work that helps open up the body supportively. When we release the left foot down, it's for pigeon. Walk the right foot over. When you lie the shin down, in order for the hips to face forward, you may need a little stuffing, a little shim under your right hip. So I want you to have any amount of like a shim or a blanket under your right hip so that you can feel solidly connected and that you won't fall to the right. Okay? Right hand forward. Left hand re-grabs left ankle. Again, the more I bow forward, the less of a back bend it is. Tensioning like I'm trying to put my foot down to the ground. Tensioning will help lift the chest forward. I'm also pressing a bit my right leg downward. So there's a lot of working parts here. I'm doing very little passive hanging out. Those are great ways to work. I'm just getting us a little more active today. All right, when we release, inhale the hands under the shoulders and exhale downward dog. And in downward dog, take a moment to push the feet into the ground, making that contact that kind of contracts and informs your muscles around the knee, where your knee is, what state your knee is in. You might want to push the ground a little bit, make those calves contract. You might want to just kind of squeeze up a little bit the quads. Just ensure that there's no surprises in the knee. We're moving the knees a lot. Lunge. Inhale, left foot forward. The right knee and the right heel are off the ground. So part of how we can create that supportive tension, one of the things we do is that tailbone move. That tailbone kind of scoots forward. It kind of pushes the pelvis forward, pushes the hips into extension, to use the fancy PT terms. So my butt muscles are engaged. Inhale, we'll bring the hands down, pad the right knee, set the right knee down. Heel to butt lunge. Right hand grabs right ankle. Again, as I kind of nudge my pelvis forward, the tailbone, the bottom of my pelvis, the hip, it's usually the front of the hip, the front of the leg, really springs on. Okay. There you go. And that deep, low-bellied breath now becomes a different creature. How do I breathe into that deep, low belly without letting go of that great work the legs are participating in? Left hand reaches back, find the foot, both hands, right foot. Now the foot presses back, kind of tensioning the hands back. Release foot to ground. We'll set up the pigeon. Walk the left foot across. In order for the pelvis to face forward, if you need to apply some padding under the left hip, do so. Left hand slightly forward, right hand re-grabs the ankle. For this to not be taken up in the low back exclusively, I'm using a little bit of my right glute. Like I'm kind of depressing, I'm kind of sending or tensioning my right side of pelvis toward the ground. I'm tensioning my left leg down into the ground. I'm pushing the ground. And that pushing, that activity can help the tissues work open. Release. Inhale, set the right foot down, hands under shoulders. Exhaling, downward dog. Gently set the knees down, and we'll talk about this Virasana. Virasana is when we bring the heels to the outsides of the hips, and we start to lean back or lie back. This can be quite an intense hangout, so let me discuss a few helpful bits. So one, I may need to stick something under my butt. Or two, I may need to get my hands back onto something. Sometimes blankets are helpful. Okay? As I begin that descent of shoulder blades to ground. Let me show you one other way. Taking one leg at a time is an option. So if this is visible to you, this is just my right leg in half Virasana. And I think it's a little bit more accessible to be able to lie back or lie back onto some props. And then you have some options for deepening by drawing the left leg toward your chest. Okay? So if I need to say that again, I will. Virasana. The really deep way is to put both of your heels next to their respective hips and lie back. Differently accessible is just put one heel next to hip. Start to sit down, have your butt contacting some kind of surface, and start the descent, shoulder blades toward ground. I'll give us a half-time mark just in case you are working one side at a time. There you go, you got it. So the how far back do I go is really contingent only on your knees, your legs, your body. Since many or most of us are doing the two legs down version, this is going to be an extraordinary, tiny, intensifying move. It's the subtle suggestion of the inner legs being magnetically attracted to each other. Just the slightest inner leg to inner leg move. A little goes a long way. That's it. That's it. And we deeply breathe. The lap, the thighs, the hip, the lower belly is an astounding place to learn about survival and anxiety and fear, but also freedom and our well-being and our health. So there's a lot of A lot of interesting sensations from this lap area, right? And just in these few more moments, I won't call a half time because we're all doing 2 legs at a time. There's these few more breaths, deep, deep breath down to the belly, down to the pubic bone, into the pelvic floor, into the lower abdomen. Now you may find a best way to exit is to tip onto one side, like onto one elbow, like you're almost partially rolling over, and you can wriggle one leg free and then roll to the other hip, and you can wriggle the other leg free. And when you lie back, we are setting up for Shavasana. You may want to hug your knees into your chest if that's not too extreme. And then when your back feels ready for resting, we'll set up Shavasana. And you might like knees bent and tented together for a period of time. And I just want to start this more long-term meditation by just bringing our attention to these 3 general areas of the body. So first, the front of body. If you've taken Shavasana lying down, this is the part of our body, our face, our neck, our abdomen, our palms, our thighs, the tops of our feet that are facing the atmosphere. Can you feel the top of your body communicating, breathing with the atmosphere? The winds, the bird song, the clouds, the air, the stillness. And then feel the trajectory of your noticing going toward the back of your body. So you feel the back of your body, the ground. Again, if you're lying, the back side is the ground side. The heels, the calves, the backs of the knees, the buttock, the shoulder blades, the knuckles of your hand, the back of the skull. The tone, the qualities of the back side of your body feel different than the front side. Can you feel the back of your body communicating with the ground? Breathing from the ground. The soil, the minerals, the magma. The groundwaters. And the middle of the body. The middle of the body is where we begin our development of every vital functioning with the support and protection of the back, and the openness to nourishment of the front side. So this is where we begin to structure all of the hardware that will become everything that we are as humans. And for now, if you're ready, bend knees, turn to a side, press your way to seated. I'm greatly inspired by you all. Thank you for these continued practices and your continued presence. This is so beautiful. Namaste.